good so far. Go ahead and give the vigor tester a try. We'll learn right quick if you got back all your faculties. Surprised anybody'd want to tangle with you. Heck, you could go Deathclaw hunting with a switch. Well, we know your vitals are good, but that don't mean them bullets didn't leave you nuttered and a bighorn a dropping. What do you say you take a seat in my couch and we go through a couple of questions? See if your dogs are still barking.
If you've ever built your character to have maximum strength, you may have heard Doc Mitchell comment that you could go Deathclaw hunting with a switch. But is that actually true? The purpose of this video is to put Doc Mitchell's comment to the test. A Switch is a popular console by Nintendo. My dad used to beat me with a Nintendo Switch every day when I was growing up, so it's not easy for me when I see someone nowadays playing their Nintendo Switch and having fun with it, because for me that was a form of punishment. But times have changed, I guess. Anyway, there are no Nintendo Switches in the post-apocalypse, but instead we can use the next best thing, a Nintendo Switchblade. Actually, the Switchblade in New Vegas is an abysmal weapon. It is so bad that there is almost nothing that is worse than it. The only weapon I know of offhand that's worse than a Switchblade is the rolling pin. Thank God Doc Mitchell didn't say I could go Deathclaw hunting with a rolling pin. But seriously, the Switchblade is terrible. If you take melee weapons as one of your skills, Doc Mitchell will hand you a straight razor. This has a bonus to critical chance and damage, so this is far better than the Switchblade, which has no bonuses at all. Even the basic knife you can find inside of Doc Mitchell's house is better than the Switchblade. Fallout New Vegas massively improved on the weapon selection of Fallout 3, but there was one omission which Fallout 3 had that didn't carry over to New Vegas. You see, in Fallout 3, there was a unique variant of the Switchblade called Butcher's Toothpick, which is about twice as good. Unfortunately, New Vegas doesn't have that, so we are forced to do our Deathclaw hunting with just a standard, regular-ass Switchblade. How many of you have ever bothered to use the Switchblade when you played New Vegas? If you have the DLCs installed, you are dumped a bunch of overpowered weapons right off the start. But even if you don't, or if you're like me and use the J Sawyer mod, which moves those weapons out to various places across the wasteland where you have to go out and find them, you are still provided with 4 better weapons right off the start. So why would you ever use the Switchblade? The only reasons are that you think it looks cool, or you're doing some sort of challenge like this one. So the first part of our challenge is tracking down a Switchblade. Thankfully, it usually isn't too difficult to find one. Sometimes Chet has one for sale, but not in this playthrough. In addition to the Switchblade, another critical component of doing this is going to be getting the 2 guaranteed stealth boys located in Good Springs. One of them can be found in the safe inside the schoolhouse, and the other is in the inventory of Joe Cobb. And by the way, don't forget to loot the houses in Good Springs. There's a Chinese stealth book inside of Trudy's house, which can give us a few more points towards Snake. I built my character around Snake and Melee, and so those are the skills I have tagged. I also maxed out Strength, Luck, and Agility. I'm treating endurance, charisma, and intelligence as dump stats. Why? Because at level 1, a single swipe from a Deathclaw is going to be an instant death, and there's no way around that. So increasing our hit points with higher endurance makes zero difference when fighting Deathclaws. Getting hit by them is an instant death either way. Now, perhaps you've leveled up a lot and you're wearing T51 power armor or something like that, then yeah, perhaps you might manage to tank a swipe from a Deathclaw and live to tell about it. But that is not the case here. Charisma is a dump stat for pretty obvious reasons. We're not even taking companions, so yeah. Intelligence is a dump stat because we're doing this at level 1, so the increased skill points from leveling up is irrelevant, because we aren't going to be doing any leveling up at all. Perception is somewhat useful because being able to locate the red pips of Deathclaws on our pip board is good to have. But it's not of critical importance like strength, agility, and luck. As I explained, the Switchblade is a shitty ass, shit tier weapon, but this can be mitigated somewhat by having maximum strength behind it. Most of the damage output we will be dealing will come from strength rather than the tiny base damage of the weapon itself. Agility grants auction points, which is good, but what is even better is that it boosts Snake. We need that to be as high as possible. Deathclaws have very high perception, so even with maximum sneak and a stealth boy, it's still going to be a challenge to get a snake attack critical on them. Speaking of criticals, that's where luck comes in. The more luck you have, the higher your crit chance is, which means the more damage output you have. If we were able to level up and get perks, stuff like finesse and better criticals, and the nurture karma related perk at max level, all would be very worthwhile to have. But we're not going to be doing any leveling up, so we'll try to do what we can with what we have at the start. I should also mention that for my starting traits, I went with Logan's Loophole on Kamikaze. The reason for Kamikaze is that, as I explained, we're going to be dying from one swipe of a Deathclaw no matter what anyway. So the DT penalty of this trait doesn't really matter. We're also going to be wearing light and no armor anyway, so I'm not sure how that DT penalty works if we have no DT to begin with. Does that mean we have negative DT? I honestly don't have a clue. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments. And Logan's Loophole is always an excellent choice whenever you're doing a level 1 challenge of any kind, because the penalty of this trait is that it reduces the level cap. But since you're never going to hit that level cap anyway, it is only a positive. And the positives of Logan's Loophole are enormous, doubling the time of consumables, which includes such things as the stealth boy. So thanks to this trait, those 2 stealth boys we found in Goodsprings can have their time doubled to make it the equivalent of having 4 stealth boys. The last thing you want to happen is for the batteries and your stealth boy to die when you're in the middle of a pack of Deathclaws. And another thing is Turbo. Turbo slows down time, and it's one of the most OP chems in the entire game and very underrated. Unlike the stealth boys, you have to go outside of Goodsprings to get it, but thankfully you don't have to go very far, because in the nearby NCRCF prison you can find it on the body of some of the powder gangers. Which ones have it and don't might vary, But just like with the Switchblade, you'll be able to find it on them. Just pickpocket it from them and keep safe scumming if you have to until you are successful. There's a lot of good supplies you can pick up in the NCRCF, including a lot of explosives. So it can be very worthwhile to stop here early on before you start your adventures, no matter what your adventure may be. And with all of these things now in hand, we are now ready to head north to the land down under.